And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is dissolving patterns of belief. We often treat our beliefs as reality, actually, probably most often. And we don't necessarily recognize that they're beliefs and that they govern our reality, and that we have an ability to shift them and dissolve them and open up new possibilities. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. And before we get started, we're just going to take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you joining us this morning, and welcome to everyone else who's with us. Today, we're talking about dissolving patterns of belief. So I think most of us are familiar with the notion of limiting beliefs and changing limiting beliefs, dissolving them, whatever. And I'm going to venture to say, based even on just personal experience, that we have lots of beliefs that govern our reality that we don't even question, So, for example, I'm just going to use an example for myself that was kind of a startling discovery, was that through my life, I have been, and I don't know how to say this without the beliefs, okay? But we'll explore that in a minute. But I was diagnosed when I was a little kid with asthma. And so throughout my life, I've lived with the diagnosis of asthma and challenges breathing and medication for that and prescriptions and all kinds of things around breathing and asthma. And it was just yesterday or the day before, believe it or not, that I realized that this notion of I have asthma and an identity of I am asthmatic is a belief. So what, to look at this condition, I have all kinds of evidence. Usually for the beliefs that we hold, we also have lots and lots of evidence. And one of the things that is becoming clearer and clearer is the power of commonly held belief. Okay, so a doctor pronounced me asthmatic, and so at a young age, and so that's what I've been my whole life. And recently, I'm waking up to the magicalness, if that's a word, of my body's intelligence, my body consciousness, my connection with my body, like being able to disappear aches and pains and engage in an interactive collaboration with my body and my experience, my felt experience. And so it occurred to me, oh my gosh, this thing about asthma, and that I am asthmatic, like a beingness that I live into, and that I have asthma like a thing that is imposed upon me, essentially, that I am powerless against, other than to medicate it or to treat it by maybe choosing certain foods or certain practices. But interesting, right? Like, this is something that I would have all kinds of agreement around. Yeah, of course, you have asthma. You are asthmatic. And there is a distinction there about having something and being something, by the way. And I think that that's really important to recognize, is that maybe when when we have something, it's easier to release that thing, like to not have it anymore, versus when we are something that's more deeply entrenched in our beingness. And so it occurred to me, this is a belief. This is a belief. And so what if sometimes I just have a hard time breathing? And what if it doesn't have to um what if it doesn't have to be a thing? What if I can find that I actually can breathe? How do we dissolve a belief? So that begs the question of, how's a belief created in the first place, right? So a belief can be something that is learned, that we're taught from an early age, often, right? Where somebody says, this is how it is. This is how the world works. And we don't know any different. So we accept that belief, and then we operate out of that belief and find validation for it. Another way that we can develop a belief is we're exposed to an idea, a thought that somehow resonates, or we have an experience that we then judge or interpret. And then that interpretation becomes cemented or reinforced as a belief. We get evidence, more and more and more and more evidence. So I remember years ago taking an intensive with Tony Robbins, and it was talking about beliefs and breaking the power of belief. So imagining a belief as a three-legged stool, and if you're able to knock out one of the legs, the stability of that belief sort of starts teetering, and it's easier then to remove that belief, to let it dissolve. And likewise, and maybe not as easy, is building those legs, those chair legs for a new belief. But the way that we do it is by gathering evidence. And the more evidence we gather, the stronger the belief. The thing is, it's a construct to begin with. And that's what we get to ultimately realize, is that our beliefs are just constructs. And so we can choose them. I choose to look at them more as hypotheses when I'm conscious about it. I wasn't conscious about the belief that I have asthma or that I'm asthmatic. Like maybe asthma's not even a thing. Maybe it's some symptoms that we put a label on. You know, how do we dissect that? How do we dissolve that belief? And you may or may not be familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's pretty remarkable. He's a guy he was a chiropractor. He broke his back. He was told he'd never walk again. He healed himself, which was an impossibility. He's written a bunch of books. I've talked about him a lot. Um, he, You Are the Placebo, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Becoming Supernatural. And all of this is about how we have the ability to transcend the limits of so many of these beliefs and to find a different beingness, a different way of being that is available to us beyond our beliefs. We can create new experiences of reality, new realities. And so I invite you to look at some of these is conditions. It's just the way it is. This isness, like I have asthma, and like that was going to be with me my whole life until I started looking at it and saying, oh, it's just a belief. Because, this is so amazing, but under hypnosis, people have been, they've done all kinds of experiments, whoever they is, with people under hypnosis, where that you could touch someone with an ice cube and have them believing that it's a red hot poker, and that person will blister. Now, how does that happen? How does it happen that a blister from like a red hot poker appears when someone is touched with an ice cube? And then that there's some kind of healing, some kind of process, and that blister can just disappear. How is it that we are capable of these radical physiological changes based on belief? Under hypnosis, the suspension of certain beliefs and allowing an enrollment into another defined reality, our experience and our physiology responds accordingly. So if I believe, like truly, deeply, fully, completely, in a fully aligned way, that I have asthma, I can manifest the symptoms of asthma, the condition of asthma. And what if there's a way to actually transcend that belief into another whole framework of wholeness and health, unmitigated? That's the thing, is I can't just want to believe that. It needs to be a belief that is in my bones, right? In order to transform, but that I can breathe normally. So right now, I'm not there yet, but I do 100% believe in an aligned way that the asthma thing is a belief and that that belief can be changed. So that's the beginning of the shaking of the legs of that three-legged chair that's holding that belief in place. And part of what allows me to know that I'm not doomed to have that condition throughout my life is the miraculous things that I've been experiencing with my body when I experience aches and pains and connect and communicate with my body saying, hey, I feel that. Can you magic it? Those are my words. I don't know what yours might be, but try it. Try talking to your body like a partner and see what comes up. I did a wonderful session with a client yesterday who has had extreme chronic pain in their shoulder for years. I guess it's 8 years now. And the origin of the pain was an injury that occurred when they were moving from a place where they had a deep, deep, deep connection to the land, and they moved to another place where they have a very deep connection to the community and love where they live. They had an opportunity to grieve the land or the the move itself, the change of lifestyle. They had an opportunity over an extended period of time to complete. And yet they had this injury and have re-injured themselves over the years. And it has been a chronic issue. And we did a session around the shoulder. And it was amazing because in the course of the session, there were moments when the pain, where it was completely neutralized. And there were other moments when the pain was excruciating. And I believe at the end of the session, there was no pain. And what came up, interestingly, was a need to connect with the land itself where they live, because they had a very rich connection with the community and with their home, the built environment, and the built environment of this new place, but hadn't connected with the essence of the place itself, the land and the spirit of the land. And who knew, that their shoulder. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward regarding their shoulder issues. But it will be very interesting, or it is very interesting to me to notice that the body is trying to communicate to us. And when we recognize it, when we interact with it as a partner rather than as a a pain or something for us to dominate and control, there's so much wisdom that's available to us. So some of the biggest beliefs are beliefs about, like, I noticed another belief that I also have, and I'm starting to look at these physically oriented beliefs that I have. This belief that I have is that I have a slow metabolism and that my body doesn't drop weight easily. So I've had that belief, that I can't lose weight, and it's been validated. So the question is, what is it? It's sort of a chicken and an egg thing. We get some kind of evidence of something, and then that becomes a belief. And then maybe the belief perpetuates the condition. It's a very interesting thing to start playing with. What if we challenge those beliefs? What if we recognize them as beliefs? And look for evidence that it is only a belief. And if it's only a belief, what might we be able to recreate? Because what we're doing, what are beliefs? They're remnants of the past. Beliefs are remnants of the past that we grab a hold of and we put in front of us and live into them. And we don't even realize it. Because we accept them as reality. We accept our beliefs as the way things are. That's just the way it is. And I just find it really interesting to I think it takes a bit of boldness, I think, to challenge these foundational beliefs, because it challenges the way we think the world is, the way that it challenges us on so many levels to say, well, if that's not true, or if that's not factual, or if that's not immutable, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about the other thing? And it can be very disruptive and disorienting, because the beliefs that we have provide the structure for the reality in which we reside, right? They provide the rails, that we don't want to go off the rails. The beliefs are providing the rails that we live within and that dictate our experience. And when we start challenging some of these foundational assumptions, it brings a question to pretty much everything else, right? Which could be liberating. It can also be very confusing. So there's a spirit to a spirit of adventure, cognitive adventure, that we can invite ourselves into. Is like, well, do I even need to know what's real and what's not real? That's been my foundational question all my life, I think, since I can remember thinking, is what's real and what's not real. And I think we probably have all had the experience as a kid where we experience something and we're told, oh, that's just your imagination. Listen to that phrase. It's, first of all, it's your imagination. In other words, it's not real. And it's just your imagination. Like your imagination is devalued, right? Oh, that's just your imagination. That's not real. And now we're discovering that there are all kinds of things that are real that we'd been taught weren't. I was listening to a book on Audible this morning called, I think it's called The Light Eaters. And it's written by someone who, marvelous writer, who was I guess, an environmental journalist for a bunch of years, and then got so fascinated by plants and all the new research about plants and the debate over whether plants have intelligence or consciousness, and what how they function, and all kinds of how do they interact, and it's begging a very deeply entrenched notion of the way the world works, dissolving patterns of belief with all kinds of proof and science, and forcing us to challenge those beliefs to say, wait a second, I think we might have gotten it wrong. There might be something else going on here. So I invite you into exploring that potential, that possibility, that likelihood. I think that there's definitely something else going on here. And when we open our minds and our hearts beyond the limits of our beliefs of how things are, there's a world of unbounded possibility and potential that opens up to us. And so I invite us all to step through that portal into that infinite universe of possibility. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. And as always, it's a tremendous joy and privilege to have the opportunity to share these morning musings on being human together. So until next time.